Shalom, shalom. I pray this reaches you in health. I wanted to put together a commentary / response video of sorts. So a particular video has been making its rounds through YouTube. And I believe the Most High has put a spirit on me to not only defend the faith, but also to build the faith of brothers and sisters. Now, all praise to the Most High. Most people that I've spoken to really are not too concerned with the commentary of this individual. But on the chance that there may be a brother or sister out there that is new to this understanding, to this truth, and this individual's comments could have the potential to shake their faith, I want to make sure that the comments were addressed. Right. So before we get started, let me say fair use. I will be using quite a few videos, not too many. But definitely will be utilizing the main video, which is the video I'll be commenting on. I make no personal monetary gain from these videos being viewed or shown, so fair use. Without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is the individual here. He goes by Yaron Reuven. I'm not going to refer to him as a rabbi. Matthew 23. In Matthew 23, the Messiah distinctly tells us to refer to no man as rabbi. So I will be honoring the words of the king. Right? But this is how he opens up the video. So let's take a look at this.
About what Kanye's saying?
Both of them and Kyrie, what they got going on?
Well, I'll talk mainly about Kanye.
Right, what about Kanye? Why you
I'm
don't
half Jewish, and he's praising...
You're half Jewish?
Yes, and he's praising Hitler, saying the Nazis were cool, and saying the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah, no, this is
Hitler. Okay, so obviously, this being at the beginning of a video, of his video, is a tactic, right? Unfortunately, Israel seems to be walking headlong into a particular narrative that's being spun about them. So let me answer this question outright. No, we don't support Hitler, right? I'm sure this brother that's speaking currently, he said that for the purpose of getting a rouse out of the individual he's speaking to, which is, in truth, actually counterproductive to the larger mission at hand. Right? Now, let me say this. I don't want to beat up on the brother too much. I'm sure he went out there with the very earnest and admirable intent of teaching his people. However, there was a lot of things that were said unadvisedly here, right? And this is why I wanted to deal with this, because we have to use wisdom when we're speaking, right? We can't just go out here haphazardly just saying anything for the purpose of being provocative and clickbait, because situations like this will take place where you become a soundbite, right? Now, it's less of a concern that you're offensive to the Gentiles, and it's more of a concern that you're offensive to the people that you went out there to teach, because individuals that are not in this understanding, 9 times out of 10 are not going to be willing to listen to what you're saying after you said something like that. Right, that's just not wise, right? But let's get a few scriptures on the matter just to make sure that we, are getting edified. All right. So I think the first place I'm gonna start is the book of Titus. The book of Titus, chapter 2 and verse 8, and it reads. Sound speech cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. Right? Now, this individual whose video I'm commenting on is certainly on the contrary part of us. Right? So, brothers, we have to be wise. Right? Next scripture I'm going to is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 3. Right, and it reads, giving no offense in anything, that the ministry be not blamed. Right, now we have to make sure that we're doing this because we want to present this truth to our people in the best way possible. All right. Paul says, I become all things to all men for the purpose of gaining them. Because after all, if we're not gaining them, then what's the point? All right. So we have to be wise. All right. Let me pull one more scripture. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. It says, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles. And I want to underscore Gentiles. That whereas they speak evil, excuse me, they speak against you as evildoers, they may by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify God in the day of visitation. All right, let's jump down to verse 15. For so is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. And this individual speaking is certainly foolish, and I plan on proving that, excuse me, to a point by the conclusion of this video. But brothers, we have to move with wisdom, right? The book of Matthew, book of Matthew, the 10th chapter tells us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, right? We don't want to be saying counterproductive things, right? That will be more of a hindrance to the truth than anything else. But let's get back to the video.
All of you?
Yeah. Hitler was killing your people, man. Hitler knew who the real Jews was. Hitler wasn't oppressing my people.
Okay, so he said two things, and I'm just going to start from the end of what he said. He said Hitler wasn't oppressing my people. That, in truth, is not correct, right? There were quite a few Black people that were living in Germany during World War II that were caught up in concentration camps and were put to death in the Holocaust, right? So that's a historical fact, many of which were African Americans and relocated to Germany after World War I, right? I mean, they're still today, a decent sized community of Black people living in Germany. I think the greatest, the largest ethnic group of Blacks living in Germany, I believe, are Jamaican or some type of Caribbean descent, right? But there have always been Black people in Germany, and we were definitely negatively impacted during the course of the Holocaust and things of that nature. And obviously, the group that was negatively impacted the largest were Jewish people, right? But there were other ethno groups and religions, and races in there that were affected and put to death, and and these traumatic things took place. So that's actually not true, right? But he said something else in the beginning, that Hitler knew who the real Jews were. Now, I know this is a provocative statement, but I'm gonna provide a bit of vindication for the brother, right? So let me go here to my sources. I'm going to a book by the name of The Nazis. This is the Time Life book, right? Entitled The Nazis, World War II. Now, my book is a little old. It's missing the Roman numeral 2 there. And I'm showing you the spine because this is where the title of the book is. All right, I'm going to show you the cover in 1 second. Now, this is the cover of the book. Right, you can go into Barnes and Noble, maybe not. Definitely Amazon. You can purchase this book if you have answers, right? But let's go inside the book. So right here, we have an image within the book. Now, I don't speak German, but I can pretty much make an educated guess on what this says, right? So we have Oriental, we have Negro. I'm not sure what that says. You have Hamite. Then you have Jude here, which is definitely the word Jew, because the word Jew is actually of Germanic origin. And then you have Baltor here, which means bastard, right? But when we go over to this upper left-hand corner, it gives us more of an understanding of what this image on the right is depicting. All right, so let's do that. Let's blow this up. Okay, so obviously you have Hitler sitting here. You have also Joseph Goebbels sitting to his right, right? And the caption reads, Goebbels and Hitler personally appraised a new German movie. when the Fuhrer complained that films espousing the Nazi line were too scarce. Goebbels rushed a pair of anti-Semitic pictures into production. All right, now let's jump down. In one segment of a Nazi instructional film to the right, that's the image that we were looking at previously, the genetic heritage of the Jew is purportedly traced to Oriental Negro, Near Asian, and Hamitic peoples. Hence, the film concludes the Jew is a bastard. Now, it says Oriental Negro and Near Asian Hamitic. Hamitic is obviously in relation to black, right? In both Christian and rabbinic tradition, Hamites would be the progenitors of black people, right? And obviously Negro, right? So this is what the now Nazis were espousing. Now we can take that with a grain of salt, right? This is the Nazis, right? But let's do this. Let's go to Google. All right, let's blow this up so we can make sure we see this. Semitic. This is the This is the easy Google search, right? Semitic. Relating to or denoting a family of languages that include Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, and certain ancient languages such as Phoenician and Akkadian, constituting the main subgroup of the Afro-Asiatic family. Right? Afro-Asiatic is a synonym with Oriental Negro. Right? Now let's look up Afro-Asiatic. All right, like I said, simple Google search, Afro-Asiatic. Relating to or denoting a family of languages spoken in the Middle East and North Africa, the family is commonly divided into 5 groups: Semitic, Ammonic, Barbaric, Cushitic, and Chadic. Ancient Egyptian was also a member of this family. Now, this is Google, right? Pretty much saying the same thing that's being espoused in this Time Life book, right? So that's just a little vindication for the brother. I know that it's a provocative subject. You know, Hitler almost is like this polarizing figure, you know, he that shall not be named. But there was some truth to the statement that the brother made. The brother made some unadvised statements, but there was some truth to that statement, as provocative as it was. Right? But let's keep going.
He was coming for your necks, right? And let me give you a wake up call, man. You're not a Jew. You're not a Jew, right? You're the seed of the devil, man. Right?
Sometimes people look like they know a lot, but in reality, they don't know. They just know a few things, and they make enough of a stink about them that it makes it seem as if they know more than everybody else.
Okay, so obviously this is the individual whom we will be commenting on, right? Now, Israel, let me say this. I want to provide a bit of a warning, right? It's going to be a lot of mudslinging and name calling that's going to, you know, persist throughout the duration of this video. Don't let it trigger you, right? The man got the right to say whatever he wants to say, right? Whatever he wants to say, rather. What we're really concerned with is what he can prove, right? Now, like I said, I'm going to take a deep dive into these statements that he's making, and we're going to see if any of these names that he's calling us stand up, right? So let's move forward.
Similar to those Reshaim, those Israelites, these idiots, Goyim, that they're not idiots because they're Goyim, because there are many smart Goyim, but they happen to be one of the idiots among the nations instead of the righteous among the nations. Now, these idiots have been making a bigger stink lately. I had a few people send me messages about them and say, oh, this is concerning anti-Semitism. Kanye West is talking about the Israelites. Now, I know these morons from years ago. I remember when I lived in New York, you always had one of these Amaleks in the middle of the street wearing something that he bought from a costume store, and he's yelling and screaming the New Testament, but he's, you know, pretending as if he's reading the 10 Commandments from Mount Sinai. And he's reading it in English because none of them know Hebrew.
That's false. That's a false statement. There are plenty of us in this community that are quite fluent in Hebrew, rather, right? But some brothers and sisters may have a resistance in learning Masoretic Hebrew or modern Hebrew, rather, understanding the origin of it coming from an individual by the name of Eleazar Ben Yehuda, right? Or Eleazar Perlman was his birth name. He changed his name to Eleazar Ben Yehuda when he relocated to Palestine in the late 19th century. So that's just a little history, but he's going to speak on that again in regard to us not knowing how to speak Hebrew.
And, yelling at everybody that they're the righteous, they're the original Jews, they're the ones, and the Jews of today are fakers.
Okay. As Erica from Stranger Things would say, just the facts.
And so on and so forth. Now, of course, at that time that I saw them initially, I didn't know anything about Judaism.
Okay, now this is a major point that I want you to bear in mind as we move forward. He, under his own admission, has stated that he's essentially a convert, right? When he came across Israel originally in New York, he was on mute. He had no response for them, right? Because he didn't know anything about Judaism, right? So the man is a admitted convert, right? Now I want you to keep this in mind as we move forward, because he's going to show quite a bit of arrogance and bravado in that regard. And I want you to bear this in mind because we're going to revisit this. Let's keep moving forward.
So there's not much to argue here. I just knew they're idiots because just the way they behave. Today, Baruch Hashem, after Baruch Hashem, I've had enough time to learn enough that they're morons. Why are they morons? Because their entire premise of everything in regards to being an Israelite and the original Hebrews and they're black and all this racism, all of that can be crushed in literally just a few sentences.
This guy is hilarious. Wait until you see the few sentences he decides to use that will crush this. Oh, boy.
There's no need for a debate.
Well, he's not going to debate because he would get crushed in debate. And like I said, by the end of this video, his very feeble and weak line of reasoning will be on full display. And you'll see why it is he would not be interested in debating. Let's keep going.
I would never have a debate with one of these people because, again, they're violent people, both verbally and otherwise.
Okay, now this brings me back to the beginning of the video with that little snippet that he decided to use, right? Now, this is what I'm telling you. These people are spinning a narrative, right? They're spinning a narrative that you're violent, that you're this, and that you're the other thing. Israel, use wisdom when you are speaking, right? Don't allow yourself to get emotional. Don't allow yourself to start saying things that is going to be detrimental to this truth, that is going to be unworthy of the representation of the Most High and your people, right? Let's stick to the scriptures, right? As a matter of fact, let's get a scripture for that. This is the book of Romans, chapter 3, and I'm going to verse 4. It says, God forbid, yea, let God be true and every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mayest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged. Stick to the scriptures and let's stop all the freestyling and just coming up with things for the purpose of being provocative. All right, let's keep going.
And even more so, they're simply mental midgets because they don't even know what they don't know. First and foremost, your religion of Christianity, and it is your religion because you're reading the New Testament. Anyone that reads and follows the New Testament is a Christian. There's no question about that. Okay,
that's absolutely ridiculous. You have Muslims who believe in Hamashiach of the New Testament, right? Who's ignorantly referred to in modern times as Jesus the Christ, right? Muslims believe in him. They believe that he is a prophet. They unfortunately believe that Muhammad was the last prophet, but they do in fact believe in Hamashiach of the New Testament, right? Now, the question becomes, is a Muslim a Christian based on his line of reasoning? Absolutely not. That would be ridiculous to say, right? But he's going to espouse a lot of ridiculous things. So let's keep going.
God did not give the New Testament to Am Israel at Mount Sinai. New Testament did not exist.
That is true. I agree with that, right? The Most High did not give the New Testament to Moses on Mount Sinai. That's a fact. There's nothing to argue with there. However, the Most High also did not give the Talmud to Moses on Mount Sinai either, right? And you can clearly look at this man and tell he's the Talmudist, right? You can see that kippah or yarmulke on his head, the palotes on the side of his head looking like Shirley Temple curls. All that is classic Talmudism, okay? The Talmud it wasn't given on Mount Sinai either, but that's not stopping you from doing what you're doing, right? So let's keep going.
Okay, so anyone that reads New Testament, you are a Christian. Rule number 1.
False. Let's keep going.
Number 2, you are reading, let's say you say, no, let's say if I take a side and I don't read the Jesus part, the Matthew and the Luke and the Stephen and the Joes, whatever it is in there, all these idol worshippers, let's say I discount them, I'm reading from the Old Testament, like they pretend like they do.
Okay, now I just want to give you a bit of a heads up. He's going to get into a bit of theatrics. I guess this is what he considers to be comedic relief. Just bear with me. We'll be through this in a minute, but he's going to start his nonsense. Give me 1 minute.
I'm reading from the Old Testament, the real word of God. Okay, buddy, let's see you read. Read it to me. Read me the first verse. In the beginning, hold on a second. I said read it in the beginning. Well, no. Read it. In the beginning. I'm reading in the beginning. It's not in the beginning. Where does it say in the beginning? Well, it says right there. No, you're reading the New Testament in English. It says Bereshit, bara Elokim, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. It's in Hebrew. It's not in English. Your translation is a manipulation.
Okay. Thank you for bearing with me through that. So first of all, what he just said in Hebrew is not the New Testament. That's actually Genesis 1:1. Right? And the Lord made the heavens and the earth. That's just one, right? That's not the New Testament. But even with that being said, he's saying that your translation is a manipulation. But what you just said in Hebrew has been effectively translated in English correctly, right? I'm trying to, where is the issue coming into play? Now, let me say this. We should have a working understanding of the Hebrew language, right? That is something we should be doing. Should you be fluent in it? Not necessarily. That's up to you, right? But you should have a working understanding of the Hebrew language. You should be studying with a concordance and be able to go into the language and research the word and understand what it means, be able to break it down. That is quite necessary, right? But what he's attempting to do, is discount or discredit you because he's rattling off Hebrew and you're not interested in doing it. So thus you're not qualified to even speak to him or be in a debate with him of sorts, which is absolute nonsense, right? And it's really a cop-out because he would not be prepared to deal in a debate with one of us. That's just a fact. And like I said, that's going to be on full display in a minute, right? But that's his means of attempting to cut the legs off you before we get started, and he gets exposed, right? Oh, they don't speak Hebrew, but it's a pseudo flex. So we're not concerned with it.
Don't tell me that you that came 1,500 years after Am Yisrael received the Torah, you're gonna come to my house, to my religion, to my Torah, and tell me what it says.
Okay, now this is why I told you, bear this in mind. The man is a admitted convert. Now all this misplaced bravado and arrogance is popping up all of a sudden about how this is his Torah and his religion and this stuff. How so? You're a guest here yourself. Now all of a sudden it's yours, and man, please.
when you don't even know the language, for heaven's sake. So that's argument number 2, the end. Now, of course, if you want to deal with the whole race card, this is what makes them stupid.
This is what makes us stupid, right? Listen to this guy. We're going to see.
The first 2 makes them ignorant. The third one is what makes them stupid. Why? They claim to be the original Jews because the original Jews, according to morons, were black.
The original Jews, according to morons, were black. Let all this sink in because we're going to see how moronic it is in a minute. Let's keep going.
Now, all you need to do is read the Torah to know there could never be a possibility that the original Jews were black. Why?
There could never be a possibility.
Where did the Jews start from? They're going to tell you all types of mumbo jumbles depending on who the yeller is. But the truth is, where did Am Yisrael start from? Avraham Avinu. So where do we learn about Avraham for the first time? Where? They're going to tell you, oh, we learn about him in Parashat Lech Lecha. No, it's not Lech Lecha, it's Lech Lecha, and it's not that. We learned the first time about Avraham at the end of Parashat Noach. Noah.
Oh, God. Man, just bear with me through this mumbo jumbo.
Ish tzaddik tamim bedorotav. Noach. That's the parasha. At the end of Parashat Noach, we learn about the Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel, actually one of the people that was part of the Tower of Babel, one of the wicked people, was Abraham's father, Terach. Okay? Now, this is where everything was. Babel had a place in it called Ur Kasdim. That's where Abraham was thrown into the fire by Nimrod.
Excuse me. Okay, so where is that in the Torah? Abraham was thrown into the fire by Nimrod. Didn't we just talk about how obviously that information is coming from some other place in the Torah, right? 9 times out of 10 is coming from the Talmud. I can't be quite certain because I've never heard this type of foolishness before, right? But I can tell you one, it didn't come from the Torah, right? With this guy sitting up here talking about how Moses didn't receive the New Testament on Mount Sinai. He didn't receive whatever you just got finished espousing either, right? It's amazing. This guy is making statements and accusations and actively guilty of the same statements and accusations that he's making. Let's keep going.
Where is Babel? That's Babylon. That's Iraq. Iraq, if you want to see it in English. It's go find me one African-American black guy in Iraq. Find one.
Okay, so let's do this. What he's attempting to do, and I definitely want to deal with this. This is the crux of his argument. When he starts talking about Iraq and Abraham is from Iraq and from Babylon, he wants you to bear in mind these people. This is what he wants you to think about. All right, but we're going to look at the history and see if these modern Iraqis line up with the ancient people of that area. Right? But in addition to that, he made a statement. Let me go back so we can get it.
American black guy, go find me one African-American black guy in Iraq. Find one.
Okay, so this is his challenge. Find a black guy in Iraq. Sure. Challenge accepted.
They are still being called by their ancestral names, slaves. Black Iraqis who have lived for hundreds of years in the southern province of Basra say they are discriminated against.
Keep in mind, the modern city of Basra isn't too far from the ancient city of Ur. It's just a little farther south. Just the facts.
There are traditions in the society. People might say it doesn't exist, but we feel it. For example, when two people fight in the street, one is black and the other one is white. They say X had a fight with a slave. It really hurts.
Sha'ban is a member of the movement for free Iraqis. He advocates for more rights for Black Iraqis, like parliament representation and more jobs. He says there's a conspiracy against them.
Why is there no black merchant or a senior black official in the state? We concluded that there's no place for the black in the Iraqi society or in the state.
They live in poverty and on the margins of society, working in low-paid professions. Local officials say there's no discrimination against anyone and that the door is open for any group to participate and take their role in the society.
We don't want to differentiate one sect or color over another. This is part of ethnic, racial, and sectarian division. We want Basra to stay away from it. But if there's a big group like the blacks in Basra, they should and can compete with the other sect or groups in the elections.
But some Black Iraqis say they are not treated the same way as other minorities.
We want to be like the Christians, the Mandaeans, and other white minorities who have fixed representation in parliament. We, the black people in Iraq, have rights.
Okay, so that's good enough. I don't want to play that entire video. But based on his statement,
I want to see it in English. It's go find me one African American black guy in Iraq. Find one.
okay, obviously he's very poorly informed. Let's keep going.
You're not gonna find.
You're not going to find, says this guy.
I love black people. I have plenty of black students and black friends.
Oh, God. Now we're going with the quintessential racist rhetoric, right? Where you say something extremely offensive to a group of people, and then all of a sudden, you know, you got a bunch of friends and students of these same people you've insulted. I mean, this guy is pulling out all the tricks.
But don't tell me that the color of your skin means that you're righteous or you're wicked, and even make it to seem that if I'm not the same color as you, therefore I'm not good. This is moronic.
I agree. That is definitely moronic. It also isn't what we teach. So let's also bear that in mind. We don't teach that depending on your color means you're righteous or wicked, right? Honestly speaking, we, the children of Israel, are commanded to go out here and teach our people, right? Whether they were here or for there, right? So majority of the people that we're speaking to and rebuking or whatever the case may be look just like us, right? Now, what he's, I guess, alluding to, right, is the fact that historically, the children of Israel are black, while historically the children of Esau are white. That's just the facts, right? If you have an issue with that, take it up with Hashem.
Even more so when your whole testament is literally something you can collapse in a matter of a few minutes because you don't even know your own history.
Okay, now we're gonna see how much history this guy knows. Because like I said, from what I've seen, this seems to be a ubiquitous argument amongst this community, where they specifically want to start the timeline at Abraham, which is fine, right? Now, putting Abraham aside for a moment, because we're going to deal with Abraham, right? Now, he's saying that it's absolutely preposterous that the children of Israel could have been black. Now, Israel went into Egypt, right, which is the land of Ham, according to the book of Psalms. 70 souls and came out 600,000, right? If they weren't black going in, they certainly were black coming out, right? But we're going to prove that they were black the entire time, right? So, like I said, let's get into this because this is the crux of his argument, right? And it's a ubiquitous argument that you're going to seem to run into a lot. So let's first set the scene with a scripture. I'm going to Genesis chapter 10, verse 10. Right? And actually, I'm going to start at verse 6. It says, and the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Right? If we jump down here to verse 8, It says, and Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. Verse 9. And he was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. Verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Kelnah, and the land of Shinar. Now he spoke about Nimrod throwing Abraham into the fire, which is unheard of. That's unfounded. Right? I don't know where he's getting that from, but that's his business, right? But the land that he's speaking about, Babylon, is referred to by the Hebrews as Shinar. Right? Now let's get that. I got some sources here. First source that I'm going to be dealing with is coming out of the Nelson's Illustrated Bible Dictionary. All right. This is Shinar. Now, Shinar is at the bottom of, page 983, right? But we see it here. I got to turn the page to get the rest of it. And it says the land of southern. Let's get to the next page. Make it big so we all can read it. Okay, the land of southern Mesopotamia, later known as Babylonia or Chaldea, through which the Tigris and Euphrates rivers flow. Genesis 10 and 10, 11 and 2. Secular historians usually refer to the area as Sumer. And this is very important. Let's bear this in mind, right? Now put that as a feather in your hat. Let's keep moving. All right. Nimrod's kingdom in Shinar consisted of cities of Babel or Babylon, Erech, Urech, Akkad or Agad, and Kelnah, Genesis 10 and 10. It was here that the Tower of Babel was situated, Genesis 11 and 2. In the days of Abraham, Amraphel, the king of Shinar, was involved in the attack and defeat of 5 kings of Canaan, including the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis 14, verses 1 and 9. All right. In about 606 BC, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took the temple vessels from Jerusalem to Shinar, Daniel 1 and 2, from where Isaiah had predicted God's people would return to Israel, Isaiah 11 and 11, after the return from captivity. The prophet Zechariah saw a vision of the removal of a woman from Israel to Shinar, Zechariah 5 and 11. Some scholars associate the woman with the great harlot, Babylon the Great, Revelation 17 and 5, a symbol of imperial Rome. All right. Now we see here, Shinar, right, is referred to by secular historians as Sumer, right? Okay. Now, let me get another verse, right? Because where did Abraham come from? We're going to the next chapter, Genesis 11. All right. The book of Genesis, chapter 11. And let's start here at 28. All right. It says, and Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. Right. And Haran is the brother of Abraham. We're going to see that. Let's read on. And Abraham and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abraham's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Isaac. Verse 30. But Sarai was barren; she had no child. All right. This is verse 31. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there. So we see that Abraham is coming from Ur, which is the city of Shinar. All right. So let's get that. All right. Let's deal with Ur. Once again, this is coming out the Nelson's Illustrated Bible Dictionary. All right. Ur, Abraham's native city in southern Mesopotamia, an important metropolis of the ancient world situated on the Euphrates River, strategically situated about halfway between the head of the Persian Gulf and Baghdad, in present-day Iraq. Ur was the capital of Sumer. Now, we're seeing Sumer again, all right? Like I said, take it as a feather, put it in your hat, all right? for 2 centuries until the Elamites captured the city. The city came to be known as Ur of the Chaldees after the Chaldeans entered southern Mesopotamia after 1000 BC. Jumping down, Abraham lived in the city of Ur, Genesis 11:28 and 31. We just read that. At the height of its splendor, the city was a prosperous center of religion and industry. Thousands of recovered clay documents attest to thriving business activity. Excavations of the royal cemetery from about 2900 to 2500 BC have revealed a surprisingly advanced culture, particularly in the arts and crafts. Uncovered were beautiful jewelry and art treasures, including headwear, personal jewelry, and exquisite china and crystal. The Babylonians worshipped many gods, but the moon god Sin was supreme. According to the city of Ur was a kind of theocracy centered in the moon deity. Namu, Namu, the founder of the strong third dynasty of Ur around 2070 to 1960 BC, built the famous ziggurats, a system of terrace platforms on which temples were erected. The Tower of Babel, Genesis 11 verses 3 through 4, was a 7-story ziggurat made of brick. It is a miracle of God's providence that Abraham resisted Ur's polluted environment and set out on a journey of faith to Canaan that would bless all mankind. I would argue with this last point. All right. But let me say this. I find this to be absolutely amazing, right? That we can look up a ziggurat today. All right, I'm gonna make a quick pivot. Excuse me. A ziggurat today and see what the Tower of Babel looked like. All right. This is fascinating to me. And I think this is something that is definitely missing in the Christian church today. They seem to teach the Bible from a perspective of like a science fiction, right? You're reading the Bible and it's almost like you're reading Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham or Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, right? Something that may have a little bit of a moral content to it that you can take with you, but nothing really that you can see in the world around you, right? So for us to be able to see this is absolutely amazing to me, right? But let's jump back. Let's jump back. Because we see here, okay, Ur was the capital city of Sumer. Now, this is the second time we're seeing Sumer, right? And Sumer being in relation to Abraham, where Abraham is coming from, right? So let's deal with Sumer. So I'm once again back into the Nelson's Illustrated Bible Dictionary. Let me make this nice and big so we can read. Sumer, the southern division of ancient Babylonia, consisting primarily, of the fertile plain between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This area is now the southern part of modern Iraq. In the Old Testament, Sumer is the territory referred to as Shinar. Okay, so now we got a second witness, right? Shinar and Sumer are the same place. Genesis 10 and 10, Isaiah 11 11, Zechariah 5 and 11, or Chaldea, Jeremiah 50 and 10, Ezekiel 16 and 29. The term Shinar is also used to describe the land of the great tyrant and empire builder, Nimrod, who founded his kingdom in Babel, Erech, Sumerian Uruk, Akkad or Agad, and Kelnah in the land of Shinar, Genesis 10 and 10. The Tower of Babel was also built in the land of Shinar, Genesis 11 and 2, or Sumer. Archaeologists believe the inhabitants of ancient Sumer or the Sumerians developed the first high civilization in the history of mankind, about 3000 BC. The Sumerians were the first people to develop writing consisting of a form of cuneiform script. Major cities of ancient Sumer include biblical Ur, Genesis 11, 28 and 31, Genesis 15 and 7, the city from which Abraham migrated. All right. So Abraham was a Sumerian. Okay. Let's read on. About 2100 BC, Sumer was conquered by an invading tribesman, from the west and north. A mighty warrior named Sargon, later known as Sargon I, Sargon the Great, and Sargon of Akkad, conquered this area and extended his empire from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. He founded a new capital city, Agag, which was for more than half a century the richest and most powerful capital in the world. This magnificent capital was destroyed during the reign of Naram Sin, Sargon's grandson, by the Guti, semi-barbaric mountain tribes. Now I want to make sure I grab this last part. Sumer enjoyed a brief revival at about 2050 BC, only to decline before the rise of the Elamites, a people to their east. Finally, in about 1720 BC, Hammurabi, all right, we're going to deal with him. Hammurabi of Babylon united Sumer, the southern division of ancient Babylon, and Akkad, the northern division of ancient Babylon, into one empire. This conquest by Hammurabi marked the end of ancient Sumer, but the cultural and intellectual impact of the Sumerians continued until after the Persians became the dominant force in this part of the ancient world. Okay. So let me make a quick pivot and deal with Hammurabi. Right? Who is Hammurabi? Many of us may be familiar with what's called the Hammurabi Code, right? So let's go here to Hammurabi. All right, this is Wikipedia. Hammurabi. All right. Circa 1810 to circa 1750 BC was the sixth Amorite king of the old Babylonian Empire. Wait a minute. Who are the Amorites? Genesis 10. We're going back to the Table of Nations. All right. And let me see. Okay. So, here we are. Actually, let me start up again so we can get the idea. This is verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. All right. When we jump down, we see, and Cush begot Nimrod. So Nimrod, which was the first king of Babylon, was a Hamite, right? According to both Christian and rabbinical theology, Hamites are black people. So Nimrod was black, right? The first king of Babylon was black. Okay. And let's move down as we see it, right? One of the sons of Ham was also Canaan, right? Now, verse 15, and Canaan begot Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite. So Hammurabi was also in Hamite by way of Canaan. So these are two black kings in this area of modern day Iraq, where this man wants you to think of these people. Okay, no problem. All right. Now, this is Wikipedia, right? So sometimes Wikipedia is not really reliable. So let's get some other sources here, right? Now, this is the Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary, right? This is where I'm getting my next source from. All right, let's blow this up so we can read. Hammurabi, the king of the city of Babylon, who brought that city to its century-and-a-half rule over southern Mesopotamia, known as the Old Babylonian Kingdom. We just read that. He was an Amorite, the name given to a Semitic group which invaded the Fertile Crescent about 2000 BC, destroying its civilization and establishing their own Semitic culture. There has been considerable difference of opinion about the date of his reign. Recent scholars favored 1728 to 1686 BC. Now, this is the second source, right, from the Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary, proving that Hammurabi was an Amorite, which is a Hamite. All right, now let's deal with Ham. Now, many of us could probably rattle this next source off the top of our head, depending on how long we've been in the truth, right? because what I'm reading is the Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary, right? But this source that we're familiar with, most people probably seen it in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. Now, some people have an issue with it, mainly Christians. I couldn't care less, right? If you have a problem with this, take it up with the scholars, right? But let's bring this out just to prove the point. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians are dark or black. The Ethiopians are dark or black. The Libyans are dark or black. And Canaanites are dark or black. Nimrod came from the Ethiopians, right, which would be Cushites, and Hammurabi came from the Canaanites, being that of the Amorites. Just the facts. Okay? Okay, now let's jump back. Because I was dealing with where Abraham came from, right? So, as we see, no, excuse me, I was dealing with Sumer. There we go. Sumer. Okay, so let's jump back to where we were at. I just had to make a quick pivot and prove that point with Hammurabi. You know, it's very interesting. You know, from this guy that says, "Show me one black guy from Iraq." You know, during the time of Abraham, this area seemed to have a lot of black folk running through there, right? But let's keep moving, right? So we see here that archaeologists believe the inhabitants of ancient Sumer, or the Sumerians, right? So Sumer is the area of Shinar, right? Let's jump back up here. In the Old Testament, Sumer is the territory referred to as Shinar, right? So we see that that area that Abraham is coming from is called Sumer, okay? So let's deal with the Sumerians, right? Let's take a good look and do a deep dive into Sumer. Move that out the way. Okay, Sumer is the earliest known civilization in the historical region of southern Mesopotamia, south central Iraq, emerging during the Chalcolithic and early Bronze Ages between the 6th and 5th millennium BC. It is one of the cradles of civilization in the world, along with ancient Egypt, Elam, the Karl Sup civilization, I believe that's how that's pronounced, Mesoamerica, and the Indus Valley civilization, and ancient China. Living along the valleys of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Sumerian farmers grew an abundance of grain and other crops, the surplus from which enabled them to form urban settlements. Proto-writing dates back before 3000 BC. The earliest texts come from the cities of Erech and Jemdet Nasir, and date to between circa 3500 to circa 3000 BC. Okay, so I'm going down to the next section under the title name. All right, the term Sumer is a name given to the language spoken by the Sumerians, the ancient non-Semitic speaking inhabitants of southern Mesopotamia, by their successors, the East Semitic speaking Akkadians. The Sumerians referred to their land as Kingir, right? The country of noble lords. They have it here in cuneiform, right? Which literally translates to country lords noble, as seen in their inscriptions. All right, let's jump down. The origin of the Sumerians is not known, but the people of Sumer referred to themselves. Okay, wait a minute. The people of Sumer refer to themselves as black-headed ones, or black-headed people. Are these black-headed people? Because this is what he wants you to bear in mind. Let's go back. All right, let's read it again. The origin of the Sumerians is not known, but the people of Sumer refer to themselves as black-headed ones or black-headed people. They have it here in cuneiform. right? It would read in English, Sagig, literally head black. Or they have it here in cuneiform again, Sagiga, phonetically head black carrot. For example, the Sumerian king Shulgi described himself as the king of the four quarters, the pastor of the black-headed people. The Akkadians also called the Sumerians black-headed people, or Salmit Kokwadi in the Semitic Akkadian language. The Akkadian word Sumer may represent the geographical name in dialect, but the phonological development leading to the Akkadian term Sumeru is uncertain. Hebrew, Shinar. All right, so this is just yet another witness. All right, now the Sumerians, whom Abraham was coming from the area of Sumer, refer to themselves as black-headed ones and black-headed people. Now, this is Wikipedia, right? Let's pull another source to substantiate this. So I'm going to H.G. Wells. All right. This is A Short History of the World by H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells is a well-known historian. All right. Let's go into the book. Okay, this is chapter 15, entitled Sumeria, Early Egypt, and Writing. All right, let's read. The old world is a wider, more varied stage than the new. By 6,000 or 7,000 BC, there were already quasi-civilized communities almost at the Peruvian level, appearing in various fertile regions of Asia and the Nile Valley. At that time, North Persia and Western Turkestan and South Arabia were all more fertile than they are now. And there are traces of very early communities in these regions. It is in Lower Mesopotamia, however, and in Egypt that there first appear cities, temples, systemic irrigation, and evidences of a social organization rising above the level of a mere barbaric village town. In those days, the Euphrates and Tigris flowed by separate miles into the Persian Gulf, and it was in the country between them that the Sumerians built their first cities. About the same time, for chronology is still vague, the great history of Egypt was beginning. Okay, now let me make a quick pivot before I get to this next paragraph and prove what H.G. Wells is saying, right? And I'm gonna bring up another source because the Nelson Illustrated Bible Dictionary says something of the sort. I'm gonna deal with that and I'm gonna jump right back, right? So it says here, this is the third paragraph. Archaeologists believe the inhabitants of ancient Sumer or Sumerians developed the first high civilization in the history of mankind about 3000 BC. The Sumerians were the first people to develop writing consisting of a form of cuneiform, right? Major cities of ancient Sumer, including biblical Ur, the city from which Abraham migrated. And let me prove this, right? That Abraham and the Sumerians were a very advanced civilization, right? This next source I'm coming from is the Josephus, the complete works of Josephus, right? Now, let's take a look at this. So this is in, let me pull this up so we can all see it. The Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 8, and I'm in section 2, all right? Let's read. For whereas the Egyptians were formerly addicted to different customs and despised one another's sacred and accustomed rites, and were very angry one with another on that account, Abram, who we know became Abraham, conferred with each of them and confronted the reasoning they made use of, everyone for their own practices, demonstrated that such reasonings were vain and void of truth, whereupon he was admired by them in those conferences as a very wise man, and one of great sagacity. When he discoursed on any subject he undertook, and this not only in understanding it, but in persuading other men also to assent to him. He communicated to them arithmetic and delivered to them the science of astronomy. For before Abram came into Egypt, they were unacquainted with those parts of learning. For that science came from the Chaldeans into Egypt, and from thence to the Greeks also. Right? So this is just to prove what we've been seeing from H.G. Wells and from the Nelson's Illustrated Bible Dictionary. But let me jump back and let me get my point here. So once again, this is H.G. Wells, a short history of the world. So we're going to jump down here to this second paragraph because we're going to prove what we've seen in Wikipedia by the Sumerians, whom Abraham was. He was a Sumerian, referring to themselves as black-headed people. All right, so let's get another source. It reads, these Sumerians appear to have been a brownish people with predominant noses. Very interesting, right? Once again, this is H.G. Wells, right? Now, let's get another source. This is Nature Knows No Color Line, right? By J.A. Rogers. Okay. So I'm going to start at this paragraph down here. As was already said, the ancient Jews who left Egypt must have been quite Negroid. After mating with Egyptians and Ethiopians for centuries, they were probably even originally Negroid. Abraham, according to the Bible, came from Ur of the Chaldees. Chaldea was the seat of Sumerian civilization, which was long considered to be white, Aryan. Apparently, it's still considered to be white, Aryan. But it was Negro, says, let's turn the page. Says Spearing in the childhood of art. The discovery, he says, was very disconcerting. Yeah, you don't say. I'm pretty sure it's very disconcerting to this guy as well. The discovery, he said, was very disconcerting to literary historians and philologists, for that race was proved to be not a branch of the civilizing Aryans, nor of the gifted Semites, which is false because they were Semites, but of a Negroid people having affinities with Mongols, right? Delafu also, in his researches, says that the Elamites who once dominated in that region were, excuse me, let me start over. Delafu also, in his researches, say that the Elamites who once dominated in that region were Negroes. One of their kings is mentioned in connection with Abraham in Genesis 14. Now, I think that we have proven that the Sumerians, of which Abraham came from, Sumer, were black. But this gives us an opportunity to springboard into something else, right? And further prove the point, because this individual says that it is absolutely preposterous to believe that the children of Israel were black, right? Well, Abraham is black, right? We proved that. There were already two kings in the area of Babylon who were black, right? Now we're dealing with the Elamites, and I'm going to show you why this is important, right? So, like I said, this gives us the opportunity to springboard into something else, right? So keep an eye on this name, Delafu, right? Because we're going to see him again. But I'm going to pull a scripture so we can kind of set the tone, right? This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 2. All right. And I'm going to start at actually verse 1. It says, in the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. Verse 2. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision and I was by the river Ulai. Now, Shushan is very important. Very important, right? So let's deal with Shushan. Let's get a source on Shushan. All right. Now, Shushan is coming out of this. Actually, this reference from Shushan is coming out of the Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary. On here. And let's make sure we can read this. Shushan, a city of the Babylonians, probably named from the lilies that grew in this region in large numbers. It was famous in biblical history as one of the capitals of the Persian Empire. Nehemiah 1:1, Esther 1:2, Daniel 8:2. During the time of Darius the Great. Here also Persian kings came to reside for the winter, and Daniel had the vision mentioned in Daniel 8:2. We just read that. The Greeks called this place Susa. It was located in the fertile valley on the left bank of the Caucasus River called Ulai. We just read that in Daniel 8:2 and 16. We just read that. It enjoyed a very delightful climate. Many Jews lived here and became prominent in the affairs of the city, as the books of Esther and Nehemiah show. From this city was sent the group who replaced those removed from Samaria, Ezra 4:9. Now, I told you keep an eye on this name, Delafu. All right, let's read. In the last part of the 19th century, the French carried on extensive excavations at Shushan, directed by Delafu. This archaeological effort uncovered the great palace of King Xerxes, 486 to 465 BC, in which Queen Esther lived. Now, Esther is Hadassah, right? Esther is who the book of Esther is about, right? Obviously, we know that, all right? So let's get that. Let's get some information on Esther. Esther chapter 2, maybe I want verse 10. Okay. Yes, that is what I want. Let me see if I can start up a little bit. Actually, let me start at verse 5. I don't want to do too much reading. I'm trying not to make this video too long, but okay, verse 5. This is Esther chapter 2, verse 5. Now in Shushan, right? We just read that in Daniel 8. The palace, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shemai, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, the king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. Verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took her for his own daughter. Verse 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. Verse 9. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet to be given her out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maidens unto the best place of the house of women. Now here we are, verse 10. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. Now, Esther is essentially hiding amongst these people, right? She's not showing who she is, what people she's from, right? That she's of the nation of Israel, right? So she can essentially blend in amongst these people in Shushan, right? Now, let's deal with Shushan, right? Or who the Greeks call Susa. All right. Okay. Now let me jump down real quick so we can get the point. All right. So this is Susa in the province of Elam, as it says in the book of Daniel, the 8th chapter. Right next to Sumer, which right here is the city of Ur, which Abraham came from. Right. Now we've already shown the Sumerians are black. Let's take a look at the Elamites, right? Who the Lafu said were Negroes also. All right. Okay. Now let's read it. Susa, Middle and Neo-Elamite, and Achaemenid Elamite. All right. Now this is very important, right? To understand what Achaemenid means, right? Achaemenid Elamite, Persian, Hebrew, Susa, right? We have a Sheen, that's a Sharuk, Sheen, and a Noon, right? Susa, Shushan. Let's jump down here. Was an ancient city in the lower Vagros Mountains, about 250 kilometers, 160 miles east of the Tigris, between Kakra and Dez rivers in Iran. One of the most important cities of the ancient Near East, Susa served as the capital of Elam and the Achaemenid Empire, and remained a strategic center during the Parthian and Susian periods. Right. The site currently consists of 3 archaeological mounds covering an area of around 1 square kilometer. The modern Iranian town Shusha is located on the site of ancient Susa. Shusha is identified as Shushan, mentioned in the book of Esther and other biblical books. Okay, so let's deal with Achaemenid, because we're seeing that here. What is Achaemenid? All right. Achaemenid, related to the dynasty ruling in Persia from Cyrus I, or Cyrus the Great, to Darius III, 553 to 333 BC. Right. This is the Persians or Elamites. Right. Now, they had architecture. Right. Let's bear in mind, this guy Delafu said that the Elamites are Negroes. We're gonna deal with it. Right. Achaemenid architecture, including all architectural achievements of the Achaemenid Persians, manifesting in construction of spectacular cities used for governance and inhabitation. Persepolis, Susa, Akbatana. Now you read about Akbatana in the book of Tobit. It's referred to as Akbatana, right? Temples made for worship and social gatherings, and mausoleums erected in honor of fallen kings, such as the burial tomb of Cyrus the Great. Achaemenid architecture was influenced by Mesopotamian, Assyrian, Egyptian, Elamite, Lydian, Greek, and Median architecture, right? So let's take a look at how the Persians, right, were depicting themselves. Now, keep in mind, this is who Esther is amongst and hiding amongst. This is on the walls in Shushan, right? Let me go back, because I want you to make sure you remember this name, right? Let's go down. Remember Delafu, right? It says in 1885 and 1886, Marcel Auguste Delafu and Jane Delafu began the first French excavations, discovering glazed bricks, column bases, and capitals from the palace of the Achaemenid kings. However, they failed to identify mud brick walls, which were then destroyed in the course of excavation. Almost all the excavation at Susa post 1885 were organized and authorized by the French government. So this is what he was seeing, right? Which is why he said here, let's get the source just in case we forgot, right? Is nature knows no color lines. Right? Nature knows no color lines. Page 123. Delafu also in his research has said that the Elamites who once dominated in that region were Negroes. And these were the people that Esther was amongst. Now, here's where it gets even better, right? Let me show you this. Because the question would become, who is Elam? Let's go back to the table of nations. Let's understand who is Elam that's being depicted here. Right? This is Elam being depicted. Let's find out who Elam is. Right? It says, I'm at Genesis 10 and 21. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber. Eber is where you get Hebrew. The brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam. So this is the depiction of a Shemite or Semite, right? Which is very important because, you know, it's a lot of rhetoric being thrown around today about anti-Semitism when you have Black people proclaiming that we are the real Jews. Or, you know, that's racist and, you know, all this other nonsense that's being spewed around, right? It's very interesting. But let's do this, all right? Let's jump back to the Nelson's Illustrated Bible Dictionary, because there's some interesting stuff here. All right. Let me get this. This is what you find in Nelson's Illustrated Bible Dictionary. Let's make this big so we can all see it. You see this individual here? That's the same thing we seen, right? Photo by Howard Voss. Mosaic of an archer discovered at ancient Susa. He may have been a professional soldier in the Persian army. This is at Susa, where Delafu said, where Delafu was working and said, yeah, the Elamites are Negroes as well. All right, let's get another one. All right, let's read this. Human-headed winged sphinx in enameled brick from the palace at Shushan. All right, this photo is also by Howard Voss. Okay, what's going on here? Right? Like I said, we go back to this guy, and it's preposterous and ridiculous that these Black folk run around talking about the children of Israel were Black. Let's let him finish.
You don't even know your own history. You're going to tell me they came from Black people? Where did Abraham come from? He came from Iraq, eating madbucha, eating falafel, eating shawarma, not eating the food that you like. He's not eating hot wings. He's eating falafel.
that is hilarious. Maybe I'm alone in saying this. By the looks of him, he's enjoyed a few plates of hot wings himself, right? But let's move on.
He's eating shawarma. This is where Abraham came from.
Yeah, you're right. And this guy has no idea what he's talking about. Let's keep going. We're almost done.
And after that, Abraham, where does it say this? It says it in the Tower of Babel, but even more, it says it in the verses themselves, where it says, "Vaychi Terach 70 shana vayoled et Avraham."
Okay, this is an intellectual flex. Please bear with me for a minute. We're not going to go too much longer, but bear with me while he finishes this nonsense, and we'll be right back.
Et Nachor ואת Haran, ואלה תולדות תרח, תרח הוליד את אברהם, את נחור ואת הרן, והרן הוליד את לוט, וימת הרן על פני תרח, אביו, בארץ מולדתו, באור כסדים. English.
Did you catch it? that head turn that he just did is indicative of the fact that he's reading what's called a Hebrew to English linear Bible, right? In layman's terms, that means all that he just got finished espousing and saying, he can't break none of that down. He can't just word for word break down what he just read, right? He has to look at the next page, find what he just got finished reading, and then read it in English. And to prove my point, he's going to lose his place. Watch this.
When Terah, this is,
Oh,
when Terah had lived 7 years, he begot Avram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the chronicles of Terah. Terah begot Avram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died in the lifetime of Terah, his father, in his native land, in Ur Kasdim. Where's Ur Kasdim? Go look on Wikipedia.
we've done that.
It's in Iraq. Saddam Hussein, former leader.
Like I said, he wants you to think about these people. Right? But is that what we've seen in the history of ancient Sumeria where Abraham is coming from? Were we seeing these people? No, that wasn't what we were seeing.
That's where Iraq is. Now, if you want to know further, where did they go after? ויקח תרח את אברהם בנו ואת לוט בן הרן בן בנו ואת שרי כלתו אשת אברהם בנו ויצאו איתם מאור כסדים ללכת ארצה כנען ויבואו עד חרן וישבו שם. Where's Haran? Terach took his son Avram and Lot, the son of Haran, his grandson, and his daughter-in-law Sarai. That ends up being Sarah later on, the wife of Avram, his son. They departed with them from Ur Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. They arrived in Haran. And they settled there. Where's Haran? Where is that? Ethiopia? Where is that? Jamaica?
Remember, this is the same guy that says he has black friends and students.
Where is that? Nigeria? Where is it? Turkey. Turkey. You know Turkey, Thanksgiving Turkey? There's a country called Turkey before there was Thanksgiving Turkey.
And what he's saying is absolutely correct. Let's pull that. Let's read what he's reading. Genesis chapter 11. We've actually read it before, but let's make it fresh in the mind. Genesis chapter 11, verse 31. And Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there. Right? This is verse 32. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Now, let's deal with Haran. Now, the scriptures spell it with two R's. With one R. But we can see it here spelled with two, right? Historically known as Kare, right, is a royal town and district of the, I'm not sure what that word is, province in southeastern Turkey, approximately 40 kilometers or 25 miles southeast of Urfa and 20 kilometers from the border crossing with Syria. Now watch this. Haran, right, which is in Turkey, right? We see Turkey, so he's correct, right? It's almost Syria, right? And actually, side note, this is where Rebecca sent Jacob to get Leah and Rachel, right? This is why Deuteronomy 25 says a Syrian ready to die was my father, right? Because this is pretty much Syria, right? But let's read. Haran was founded at some point between the 25th and 20th century BC as a merchant colony by Sumerian traders from Ur. Now, we've dealt with the Sumerians, but let's deal with it again. You know, these Sumerians, the origin of the Sumerians is not known, but the people of Sumer referred to themselves as black-headed ones or black-headed people. These Sumerians, right? They're the ones that founded Haran, which is specifically from Ur, which is why it would make a lot of sense on why Abraham would go there, right? Because he already had kinsmen there, right, prior to coming down into Canaan. So I have no problem with what he just said. All right, let's just go for a little bit more.
That's where Haran is. Go find me a black person that lives in Turkey.
Sure. Once again, fair use.
I Aisha Urundu remembers the Dana Bayram festival as a family tradition. The celebration is for Turks of African descent, and her family's been going almost since they arrived in the Ottoman Empire in the 18th century. They were brought as slaves, but Aisha said the event today makes her community feel free and welcome.
I've always tried to attend the Dana festival. I try to go every year because it's very important for our culture and heritage. The tradition and culture of our ancestors must be passed on to the next generations.
Even at 87 years old, it's still Aisha's favorite thing to do. The festival dates back to the 16th century and includes the slaughtering of cows and a celebration of African culture. But in the last decade, the emphasis has been on teaching oral history.
The aim of documenting our oral history is to keep our dying culture alive.
Okay, now keep an eye on this individual, right? What's his name again?
The aim of
his name is Sakir. Keep an eye on him because you're going to see him again.
Documenting our oral history is to keep our dying culture alive. We want to have more written information about our culture and traditions so that the next generation of Afro-Turks who want to learn about their ancestors can have resources and an archive in their hands.
The festival ends with a feast.
Okay, that's enough on that. Let's pull one more. Once again, fair use.
They've known each other since they were young men. Now in their 70s, Shukru Seze and Ismail Dincer tell a story older than the Turkish Republic itself. It's the story of Africans in the Ottoman Empire. Some came freely as part of conquering armies, others were brought here as slaves.
Hiçbir zaman sorgulamaya başlamadım. I never questioned my roots. I was born in Turkey. I feel Turkish. There is no difference. I have a grandson who graduated from university. He made research at Istanbul. He found out that we are originally from Sudan. I don't even know my grandfather. My mom's mom died in early stages of the war with the Greeks.
Shukru says his mother, who has been ill of late, is 103 years old, 8 years older than the Turkish Republic. She's one of an estimated 40,000 Afro-Turks, Turks of African origin, whose roots in Turkey go back generations. Shukru's friend Ismail used to be a village leader in the 1970s.
We have grown up together. Our fathers have grown up together too. I'm 8 years older than him, but we have a good friendship. We have good memories. There is no difference between us, both in this village and in this country.
62-year-old Shakir Doler.
And this is Shakir again. All right, this is the brother Shakir again that we seen on the previous video, right?
Heads the African Culture Solidarity and Cooperation Association. It's meant to reconnect Afro-Turks and codify their oral histories in Turkey.
When people see us, they think we just came to Turkey recently, and they try to speak to us in English or Arabic. And when we tell them we are Turks, they get surprised. They admire our Turkish. They ask us when we came here, how we learned the language. We tell them that we were born here. Some don't believe us.
All right, that's good now. Okay, he put forth another challenge, and there you have it. Yeah. So let's see what else he had to say.
I was born there, and it's from the time of Abraham Avinu. So, you see, Rabotai, those idiots, and I emphasize, idiots.
Those idiots. Yeah. I don't know. I think he's been eating those words.
Are people that are a danger to society. Why? Not because of their demeanor and their gigantic size and their weird clothes, but rather because when they speak in such a demeanor, with such oomph behind their voice and command of their beliefs, that it actually sounds like what they're saying is true.
You mean like what you just did? I want you to bear in mind, this man has not proved anything he has said. Not one single thing he has said has been proven. It's just a lot of rhetoric, right? And usually we would call it that, we would refer to that as caucasity, right? A particular type of arrogance that white people have, and those who are white adjacent, right, can just say things and don't have to prove anything they said, and it's just supposed to be regarded as a fact, right? So, like I said, he hasn't proved anything. He's just been running his mouth this whole time.
So people follow them into Genom. And guess what? They're also going to go to Genom. Who's not going to go to Genom? Someone that studies.
I agree with that statement. Like I said, it's a few times where I agree with him, right? And that statement, I certainly agree with. And I think this is a good place to go ahead and end it. I pray that you were edified by this. I pray that this is something that you can add to your arsenal. Definitely something that can help build your faith. I pray the Most High make His face shine upon you, that He keeps you and blesses you. All right. With that said, Shalom.